So our first video for chapter 39 is going to talk about place clues in Latin. And this is going to cover the building the meaning on pages 118, 119, and also 120. So if we talk about place in Latin, the majority of the time we're going to use a preposition. And we can talk about place in three different aspects: place to which, place from which, or place in which. If it's place to which, we're going to use a preposition ad, and that's going to be followed by the accusative case. We know that. We've learned that quite a long time ago. So ad forum festinabit means he hurried to the forum. So we're going to or toward someplace. Again, ad, and this accusative case, the preposition and motion. We can also have place from which. I'm leaving from someplace, away from someplace, out of someplace. And in Latin, I can use one of two prepositions, either a, ex, and the ablative, or a, ab, plus the ablative. So we have a sentence there in that second box, e ludo venit Euclides. Euclides came out of the school, away from the school. So again, we have a place of motion away. The case that we use is the ablative, and we can use one of those two prepositions. Third, we can have place in which. You're not going to or from someplace, you are just in or at a place. And using a preposition, we're going to use in, followed by the ablative. So Cornelius in atrio sedet. Cornelius sits in the atrium. So again, this is going to happen the majority of the time in Latin. If we are going to someplace, from someplace, or in someplace, we use one of those various prepositions and the according case. However, because Latin likes to have little idiosyncrasies, when we are talking about cities, towns, small islands, or if we use the particular nouns domus and rus, both of which are fourth declension nouns, I do not use a preposition when I'm describing place to which, from which, or in which. So let's say that one more time. Most of the time in Latin, place to which, from which, or in which, I use a preposition. I do not use a preposition, however, when I'm dealing with cities, towns, small islands, domus, and rus. So if I'm going to a city, to a town, to a small island, to the countryside, to the house, I just use the accusative. So that sentence there, Romam festinabit, means he hurried to Rome. I do not need a preposition. Same goes for place from which. Baiis profectus est means he left or departed from Baiae. I just use that ablative case. I do not need a preposition because Baiae is a city. So for both of those, to which or from which, I'm going to use the accusative or the ablative respectively without a preposition when I'm dealing with cities, towns, small islands, domus, and rus. Place in which is where it's a little different. For place in which, for a city, town, small island, domus, or rus, I use what we call the locative case. The locative case is the seventh and final case that we need to learn, and it's pretty simple, all things told. Let's learn about it. The locative case, once more, is when I'm dealing with place in which, that's what it indicates, and I do not use a preposition. If I have a singular noun from the first or second declension, the locative is going to be the same as the genitive. So there's no new ending that we need to memorize. It's the same as the genitive. Rome is a first declension noun. It's singular, so the genitive is Romae. So that means the locative is also Romae. So this sentence, Romae manebat, means he was remaining in Rome. We could also say he was remaining at Rome. Makes a lot of sense. I don't really see how, if you look at that sentence, there's any other way that you could translate that. You wouldn't say he was remaining of Rome. That doesn't make any sense. He was remaining in Rome. So Romae there we would say is locative. If your noun for a city, town, or small island is in the third declension and it's singular, the locative is the same as the ablative. So Carthago, Carthage, is a third declension noun. The sentence Carthagini acceptus est uses the locative. Carthagini locative, same as the ablative, and that means he was received at Carthage. Again, if you're looking at that, it doesn't really make sense that there could be any other way of translating it. It's where he was. He was received in or at Carthage. Any noun that's plural, the locative is going to be the same as the ablative. So Baiae is a first declension plural noun, so the sentence Baiis vilam habet, Baiis there isn't ablative, but it's locative. He has a house at Baiae. Where is it? It's at Baiae, in Baiae. So the thing to remember, more so than these rules, if you can remember the rules, that's great, but if you just use your common sense, locating and then correctly translating a locative is going to be pretty easy. It has to be for a city, a town, or a small island, or domus and rus. and its place in which. It's describing where you are. And you're almost always going to translate it with in or at, and then whatever that might be. For domus and rus on page 120, there's a chart that shows you the vocatives, so you can take a look at that. For some practice, try 39b on page 120 or 39c on page 121. Again, the easiest way to deal with all of these place clues in Latin is to use your common sense. Are you going to someplace, from someplace, or in someplace? Is it a city, town, small island? Yes or no? That's going to determine whether you use a preposition or not.